welcome to this special Saturday edition of the 572 Hours to Go. The nominees sprinting across the battleground states that will decide Tuesday's election. Celebrities and even babies are turning out on the trail to lend a hand to Clinton and Trump. Let's take a look at their last 24 hours.
In 3 days, we are going to win back the White House.
President of the United States is Hillary Clinton.
We don't need Jay-Z to fill up arenas, you know. We do it the old-fashioned way. I actually like Jay-Z, but you know the language last night.
Will we reject a dark and divisive vision for our future and embrace a hopeful, inclusive, unifying America?
Look at that baby, so cute. Oh, give me that baby. Future construction worker.
I want to be the president for everybody. Everybody who agrees with me, people who don't agree with me.
To all Americans, I say, it is time for change. It is time for new leadership.
Let's vote for the future. Let's vote for what we want for our country.
All right, only 2 points separate the presidential nominees, according to a brand new Fox News poll that was out last night. So this is it, Kimberly.
Yeah.
We're like, whew, we can count down the days. I'm so excited for my book tour trip next weekend. I already packed this morning.
Oh, you're
so
very
I could be
good packer.
prepared because I
Yes.
am ready for this week to be over. What about you?
You're like the best packer ever. So, yeah, like, I will tell you something. That was real frightening. Can I just say? The scream was like Howard Dean. She's like, I don't even know, channeling Howard Dean. And it was funny, just the juxtaposition, the baby, this, that, the whole deal. What?
You know what? Why she was screaming? She was possessed through the spirit cooking of John Podesta.
Exactly.
And Podesta's brother.
Yes. Last night, you know, they had Hex Mex. they actually stir-fried a Chihuahua.
Oh, my God.
That's not true
That's
for
not
all
a
you
fun
kids
breaking
listening
news
at
right
home.
They had a ghost beef sandwich.
Can you summarize spirit cooking for us real quick?
Please see Greg's Twitter
There's
feed
some
last
performance
night.
art out there, allegedly, and not magic, just performance art, supposedly, that incorporates some aspects of magic and cooking and
The occult.
yeah.
And this is
whatnot.
and look it up because Eric did.
But here's
he's
the
right.
thing.
It came up in the
Here's thing.
WikiLeaks.
It came up in WikiLeaks. Apparently, this performance artist, Marina something, can't remember her name, emailed John Podesta's brother, Tony and said, Tony, is John, your brother, going to join us? And I guess there was never an answer. So therefore, the lie is being made.
I wonder
of
if they had risotto.
Important tip is always set your coven to 450 degrees.
My
Yeah,
goodness.
or just stick with the Colorado brownies.
Well, Eric, we do know a little bit about how these two candidates are trying to close out the race based on where they're going. Because in the battleground states we've been talking about for the last year and a half are the battleground states that it's really coming down to. Especially, they're spending a lot of time in Florida and North Carolina, and of course both in Ohio.
Yeah, and obviously, so we'll know very early on if Trump doesn't win Florida, it's over. It's game over. Ohio, he has to win. North Carolina, he's up a little bit, so he's going to go back there a couple of times before Tuesday's vote. So if he starts to slide in Pennsylvania, which it looks like it's moving a little bit away from him, and doesn't shore up Michigan, Minnesota, or Wisconsin, he has that one path left of Iowa, Nevada, and New Hampshire, right? And there's one congressional district way up in Maine with one CD2, which is one vote. But that path brings it to him too. So there are a couple of ways he can do it. I tell you though, this jobs number that we talked about yesterday he should be on this. I looked into it, right? So Hillary Clinton saying, hey, look, this is great. Barack Obama saying, look, this is great, 4.9% unemployment rate. You look inside that jobs number, we lost 103,000 full-time jobs last month. 103,000 lost. We increased 90,000 part-time jobs. I mean, so it was 4 times worse than that the month before. What's happening is this economy under Barack Obama has gone from a fully employed economy to people taking part-time jobs, trying to pay for their own medical expenses. It's really bad for the vast majority of people.
Well, I must say the Wall Street Journal on their front page this morning sure had a different story to tell, because they talked about how great this was and especially focused on wages. Wages being up for the first time in, I guess, since '09. Wages going up, and wages going up for the middle class, and suggesting, boy, look at the good state of the American economy. Trump had hoped that some of this economic news would be not so good. But, you know, according to people who are economic analysts, not only in the Journal, but in the New York Times, Washington Post this morning, this was a very good report.
Isn't that like saying, like, a child finally got his first meal after 2 weeks? It's like it's been since 2009. I mean, just by sheer randomness, you're going to get an increase if you just hang around long
but
enough.
what we're talking about is a few days before the election. If that number had been bad, boy, we would be jumping. It is not bad. I think you're trying to spin something.
No, I'm not spinning anything. The analysts were the same analysts that you think were a 2.4% wage growth for a month is fantastic after almost 8 years of stagnant wage growth. If that's good, those same analysts said we needed 175,000 jobs last month. We got 161, and most of them were part-time.
Here's the thing. The bottom line on this was that there's concern about what the Fed will do in December with regard to interest rates. And the Fed, apart from any politics, the analysis this morning was, well, now it looks like they are going to push up some of the interest rates because this is such good economic news for the American middle class. And consumer confidence up.
Can I bring Kimberly in here?
Christmas.
About, there's been a lot of talk about gender politics, and last night on Bill O'Reilly's show, he correctly said, you basically have to win, Trump would need to win 45% of the women vote in order to get his 270 in order to become president. And one thing that was consistent in research that I looked at was that women across the board, regardless of educational attainment, race, or where they lived in the country, their two #1 issues were national security and personal finances. So it's not about the Fed or about part-time jobs and stuff. It's about those personal finances. Do you think there's anything that Trump or Clinton could do in the next 3 days that could get back on those issues?
She has, you know, the advantage there with women. That's been shown and demonstrated consistently throughout this whole election process. But this is something that is one of his strongest points in terms of being a focus on jobs in the economy, and he needs to personalize that message to say that speak directly to the women out there, that he is the man that can make sure that they have food on the table and money in their wallet and, you know, funds to be able to pay for schools, to be able to pay for health care, all of that, and the national security piece. Women care about security, and that's something where she's been proved, he can say, to be should be distrusted, that she's been incompetent, that she's been reckless with our national security. If you drive those messages home, I think that's something where, you know, he can work, but except we're a couple days before the election now.
We
so
are.
Problematic.
Greg, yesterday, over the last 2 days, the Wall Street Journal has editorialized about both candidates, not providing endorsements or non-endorsements of either, just laying it out there as they see it. Basically, they're called, the two editorials are called The Cost of Clinton, of which they list many, and then The Gamble of Trump, to which they say there's just so much that you don't know. And the last thing it says is on his is, another risk comes from negative impulses on the political right that Mr. Trump's meanest rhetoric has awakened, but that for her, she would face a Congress that wants to investigate her from the first day, an electorate that is polarized and does not trust her.
You know, this election, Dana, is like an old bra. It's down to the wire, and it's getting under our skin. So you have
Oh my God.
You have two ways.
Do you have experience with that?
Yes, yes. Well, you know, when you stop lifting, things go. 2 ways to look at this.
Oh my God.
What issue means most to you? If it's immigration, if it's terror, if it's the Supreme Court, then you could argue, does that negate the misgivings you have for your candidate, or does your candidate make those issues worse? That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it, which is how I look at it every day, is who hates you most? Like, I'm not crazy about Trump, right? Everybody knows that. But I know for a fact that Hillary and her camp, they hate my guts. The Hillary people, the most hardcore people, they hate us. So it's hard. It's like, I'm not crazy about Trump. I find some of his things just completely wrong. But at the same time, I know Hillary wouldn't throw me a life preserver if I was drowning. So that's where I am in all this.
Well, let me ask you,
Hope
what
you
about
can swim.
what about?
I'm holding onto my bra.
But here's the thing. What about the country?
Yeah.
You know, I just think you have at some point, you know, separate out Greg Gutfeld from this race, and you have to say, do you really, in terms of the future of the country, who do you trust most? Who do you trust with your, you know, I have kids or grandkids or.
See, I don't have either, so it's all about me.
It's all about you.
I don't even have a pet. But okay,
are we possibly?
What?
We all have rights. We all have constitutional rights, and we don't want our constitutional rights changed or impinged. That's why, for me, being a single-issue voter with the Constitution and Supreme Court, then you have to side with the GOP and hold your nose. take your medicine and vote for the GOP, and you may not love them.
Here's why I can't take that, man. To me, what you have in Trump is an authoritarian who's in the model of, like, somebody wrote Hugo Chavez or Vladimir Putin.
He put out, but they didn't have checks and balances.
Checks and balances. He wants to go after the press. He talks about locking up his political opponent. That, to me, is disquieting.
Guess what? We have an entire hour to talk about this race.